Good evening, Uchona Njani, Maswera say. Thank you for choosing ZiFM Stereo, my station, your station, on another Wednesday evening. Today is Wednesday, the 17th of September, 2025. We're halfway through the week. Trust that you're surviving. And once again, thank you for choosing ZiFM Stereo this evening. Welcome to another edition of The Gender Agenda, and I'm your host, Khaya Moyo. And on today's show, on today's episode of The Gender Agenda, we're talking about an issue that, quite a sensitive issue. It is painful and often hidden, and yet this issue affects far too many families within our communities. And this issue that we're referring to is sexual violence. Sadly, in many cases, the perpetrators are not strangers, but people that are close to the survivor. It could be a family member, it could be a neighbor, a partner, or even trusted friends. And for far too long, we've seen that silence, stigma, and fear have kept survivors from seeking help, where even some families are even protecting the perpetrator. But on today's episode of the show, we want to address this issue and have a conversation that is focusing on the critical first 72 hours after a sexual assault has taken place. This is very important because seeking medical attention within this window can make a life-saving difference. And to help me unpack this very sensitive and important conversation today, I am honored and privileged to be joined by Commissioner Anne Musiwa. She is the Deputy Director of Childcare in the Ministry of Health and Childcare, and she's also Rapporteur within the African Union for the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. So we have an expert, well-versed. Commissioner, good evening, and thank you for taking time for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Kaya. Good evening to you, and thank you for affording us this time to be here to discuss on this critical issue.
Mm-hmm. I think before we delve into the nitty-gritties, I think it's important to maybe just set context. When we talk about sexual violence, what are we referring to?
When we're talking of sexual violence, we are talking of non-consensual sex. That's what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And it could be non-consensual sex with an adult or with a child, a boy or a girl.
And within your work within the Ministry of Health and Childcare, how is sexual violence manifesting itself predominantly in Zimbabwe?
Sexual violence in Zimbabwe, from our assessment and analysis within the Ministry of Health and Childcare, referring to the data which we have, you find that sexual violence is very, very common in children. And by the way, Kaya, the definition of a child is anybody who is below the age of 18. And of late also, we're noting that there are increased numbers of boys who are being sodomized. Is beginning also to be an issue within Zimbabwe. Of course, gender-based violence, which we are if we focus on adults, for women, yes, is also increasing. But in comparison, in terms of percentage, is more of a girl child than the adult.
Mm-hmm. And thank you, Commissioner, for raising that that boys get affected as well. Oftentimes we tend to look at these issues in isolation and refer to just one gender, and it's important to balance out that conversation and also to raise awareness about some of the violence that young boys are facing as well.
It's true.
When we look at the issue of sexual violence, why is it that so many victims or survivors are not coming forward, or they delay seeking help?
The reason, from an assessment which we did some 2 years ago, when we were looking at access to health service provision within 72 hours, mainly is because of cultural norms and beliefs, and also because these cases, they're happening within the family, and it's a family member who is the perpetrator. And for retaining the good name of the family, many, they do not want to come and report. Others, it's as a result of stigma within the community itself. And for some, it's because of lack of knowledge. Also the distance from their homes to the nearest clinic. And I also would want to believe, in my own view, in my own opinion, that people are not well informed, because previously it was that if somebody has been sexually abused, they should report to the police first before they go to the health institution. And because of the issues of cultural norms and values, people, they don't want to bring in the law into these cases. They would rather not go to the police. And for them, once we've not gone to the police, we should not go to the health institution.
And we'll talk about the reporting procedure to follow shortly. But I think it's because we mentioned that oftentimes the perpetrators are usually people that are known to the survivors. Why do we see this dynamic happening?
I think this dynamic is happening, in my view, as much as we appreciate the internet, the social media, our children and also the adults, they are exposed to a lot of things which are happening in the world. And many of them is trial and error. That's why they do it. And in many a case, it's also because of rituals in a family setup. They believe that if they have non-consensual sex with a child, maybe they are healed of HIV, and if they do that, they might get rich. It's all about traditional religious beliefs, which actually prompts that. And I also would want to believe that because of poor parenting skills, it could be a contributory factor whereby you find a cousin brother raping a cousin sister. I think it's also related to poor parenting skills.
And those are really big issues that we should be addressing and raising more awareness of. Looking specifically from the perspective where the perpetrator is known to the survivor, what are the dangers of family members protecting a known perpetrator? We've read so many reports, so many news stories, even us as ZiFM, there's some of these stories that we run, and there's always this aspect where the perpetrator is being protected. But I think it's important to speak to this, and for our listeners who are tuned in, and even for our viewers watching this online, why is it important to address and to make sure that people do report, regardless of whether this is a breadwinner, somebody close to the family, a family member?
It is important to report because we're looking from a health perspective, the issue of the well-being of the survivor. If we do not, I want to get something very straight here. When we speak of reporting, the assumption is people reporting to the police, or we are saying reporting to the clinic. And I'm focusing on reporting to the health service for a health service provision. That's the key thing. Because if the survivor does not report, or they do not go to the clinic or the nearest health service institution, it means that they are vulnerable, or they are prone to contract HIV. They are prone to contract sexually transmitted infections. They are prone also to getting pregnant to those who are in the childbearing age. And each of those, it has got its own complications, let alone if pregnancy occurs in a child. The child's anatomy is not yet well prepared to carry a fetus, let alone to deliver. It carries on its own complications. That's increasing the morbidity and the disease burden for the country, and also on the family. It also increases mortality, maternal mortality rates. So it is very, very critical for the survivor to access health service provision.
And we did highlight earlier that there's usually a delay, that sometimes people delay reporting due to fear, the stigma, and not maybe even ignorance, not knowing where to go to. And you've been emphasizing, Commissioner, the importance to seek medical attention within 72 hours of sexual assault taking place. Why are we emphasizing that 72-hour window?
We emphasize that 72-hour window because we want to protect the survivor from contracting HIV, and we are saying within the first 3 days, if we give the prophylaxis for prevention of HIV, the chances of that survivor contracting HIV, they are very, very minimal. And also within the 3 days, of course for pregnancy it will be 5 days, but also within the 3 days, if it's a person of childbearing age, they are tested for pregnancy, and if they are not pregnant, then they are given the PEP to prevent pregnancy, and the chances will be very minimal. At the same time, it is also very important the 3 days or the 72 hours. When the person is tested for HIV and they are positive within those 3 days, definitely it will not be as a result of the rape. So it will also help in the systems of justice. But if that person is negative within those 3 days, and then we continuously review the person after 21 days, and then they turn up to be HIV positive, the potential, I stress the potential, could be that they've been infected during the abuse.
And of course, we are emphasizing that the reporting needs to happen within 72 hours. But what if a survivor delays beyond the 72 hours or the 3 days?
If the survivor delays beyond the 3 days or the 72 hours, still we encourage the survivor to seek for medical services. When they come, if we test for HIV, we are not testing to give PrEP, but if it's also an opportunity, we don't want to have a missed opportunity. Remember, we already have a problem of HIV and AIDS in our country. So it's also an opportunity when we test them and we find that they are HIV positive and they are not on treatment, then they are initiated on antiretroviral therapy. At the same time, for the pregnancy, if it's after 3 days, but within 5 days, is still valid. We do the same. And for sexually transmitted diseases, just to note to you is that sexually transmitted diseases, if the person is infected, we will not see the symptoms there and there within the 3 days. It depending with the type of bag. Then within 7 days, some within 14 days, then the symptoms of STI, they begin to show up. And also the most important thing, again, in addition to the medical treatment, is the psychosocial support, counseling. It is very traumatic for somebody to go through an incident of rape or of sexual abuse. So you need to talk to the person, they open up, they relive the experience, and you take through them counseling. And counseling is not one day. So as you speak to the client, you give them review dates, you also refer them to appropriate stakeholders. We have got partners whom we work with where they do counseling services. We refer them to that so that they have continuous counseling. We refer them to the social services department, especially if it's a child, so that they assist the child in terms of taking up in the processes of justice through the probation officer. And at the same time, social services, if it's a child, they'll further do an assessment in the home of the survivor, especially where a survivor has been raped by a relative whom they are living with. They do the assessment to identify whether it is still a safe place for the survivor to reside there. If it is not a safe place, working together with the family members, they identify a place of safety for that child.
And it's important to note that seeking medical attention is not only just for testing for HIV, potential STIs or pregnancies, but there's also the psychosocial support that you've mentioned, which is very, very important to help a survivor deal with a very traumatic experience. Commissioner, we've been emphasizing seeking medical help. What is the first point of call? An individual has been sexually abused. Do they start at the police station or they show up first at a hospital or a clinic?
Thank you for that question. Previously, let me just highlight this because I know in most people that's what they still have in mind. It was a norm and it was a law that if somebody is sexually abused, they report to the police station first. And through the police station, then they are referred to the health institution. But from assessment over the years, seeing that we were losing the clients along the way, or they would never even report and would miss them, there is a circular number 1 of 2007 within the Ministry of Health, which allows or which directs survivors to report to the health institution. The first port of call is okay. It's not a must that they should go to the police station first. It's not a must that they should report at the school first or a must to the health institution. But let me be biased here. I believe strongly that the first port of call should be the health institution, because our worry is the health of the patient. Remember, the trauma which the client goes through affects them to an extent that some they suffer from depression, fear, anxiety, and some can actually have suicidal ideations, especially when they are being stigmatized within their family or within their community. But otherwise, any first port of call is a point of call.
I asked this obviously to educate people so that they know what to do if they find themselves in such a situation. But also there are also conversations around how do we preserve evidence for the legal follow-up or for the procedures that come thereafter. Are those things that a survivor should be concerned about in that moment?
Sure, they should. If a survivor has been abused, we encourage that they do not destroy the evidence. What am I saying here? As soon as they've been abused, all things being all right, they should run to the health institution. They should not wash, they should not have a bath. The clothes they were wearing, yes, they can change the clothes, but they do not wash them. They put them in their plastic bag or in their bag. They keep them as evidence to be used in the courts. So we encourage that. Even the courts or even the police, they also encourage that. But many a time, unfortunately, when people or survivors have been abused, by the time they come to the institution, it's a day gone, it's 2 days gone, and somebody cannot stay for 2-3 days without washing. But the clothes they have been wearing, they should keep them. And it's encouraged that as soon as they have been abused, they should go to the nearest health institution without having washed. And in addition to that, when they go to the health institution, we've got levels. I think you're quite aware. We've got health posts, then rural health clinics. We have the district hospitals, the provincial hospitals, and then our central hospitals, which are tertiary institutions. And we also have our mission hospitals. So for the rural health clinic and the health post, they are given just the minimum package. That's of testing the HIV and also getting the PrEP. Then from the level of the district hospital, going to the provincial and the tertiary, that's where the forensic examination is done, also to get evidence which can be used in court when the client has reported their case to the police.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for clarifying that minimum care package. Are these services for free, Commissioner?
Sure. All the services for a survivor of sexual violence, they are free. A survivor of sexual violence should not pay for anything, right from getting the treatment card, from being examined, getting the PrEP and the other treatment which is related to effects of the sexual abuse. They should not pay. Mm-hmm. It is free of charge.
And are health personnel trained for sensitivity for handling such cases?
Definitely they are. And I'm happy and very proud as a Zimbabwean to say that our Nurses Council, they have co-opted issues of sexual violence, violence against children, sexual gender-based violence, children's rights into the curriculum of nurses. So what I'm saying is that the theoretical input is already given. There is no registered general nurse or primary care nurse who completes nursing without this knowledge of how to care and manage for a survivor who has been sexually abused. However, it is the practical aspect of the forensic examination which will be amiss. So once they qualify, they get into the service provision system, they are ready to give the minimum package. But examining for the forensic examination, that's where now we do training so that they gain confidence. Yes, they already know the anatomy and physiology, but there are some things which are nitty-gritties which they really need to refine. So for people who are already there, who have been trained, they also mentor their colleagues. We need to be very cost effective as a state, so we have trained people who are in health institutions who are now mentoring others in their health institutions on the job training.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's quite impressive and commendable to see those structures being put in place. What more do you think needs to be done, looking at it as an ecosystem? What do you think needs to be done to strengthen, to make sure that our system is survivor friendly?
For our system to be survivor friendly, not just focusing at health, it is a multi-sectoral approach. I'll just refer back to one of your questions which you asked, the port of call, where should they report first?
Yes.
It is very, very important that we strengthen our multi-sectoral approach. If the survivor reports at a police station first, I believe that the police officers, within their capacity, within their mandate, they should ensure that the survivor is assisted, or they bring in transport for the survivor to get to the health institution as soon as possible. At the same time, I also believe strongly that for the police service, they should also be trained, and I know they are being trained on handling the survivor, because the first port of call is very, very intricate. It can either break down the survivor or build, and it can actually cause the client either to be receptive to the treatment they are going to receive. So they also are being trained, the police officers, on how to handle the survivors. And I think we are quite aware that they have the victim-friendly unit where they have got officers who are trained specifically for that. When it comes also to the police officers at the same time, they also relate to the Department of Social Services. They will not wait to say, okay, when the survivor gets to a health institution, that's where they are going to report to the social worker. They should also do that. They also refer to the social worker, they refer to the health institution. If the survivor comes to the health institution, likewise, the health institution gives the treatment. Remember, the health institution is there to prevent, treat, promote, and rehabilitate. For children, it is a must, and it is a must for health workers then to refer the survivor to the medical social worker. And the medical social worker, within their mandate, is the one who reports to the police for it now to be a criminal case on behalf of the child survivor. But for adults, they are given the information. They've got a right to choose. They are told where to find the services. If it's within their will, they then go and report. We don't do that on their behalf. We also have the Judicial Services Commission. Yes, the Judicial Services Commission, we need to strengthen our relationship. Yes, we have meetings with them because, at times you look at statistics. For an example, you hear that there's ZiFMStereoRadio, they've come across or they've attended to 1,000 survivors. Yes. In the health institution, they've attended to 700 survivors. Where did we lose the 300? Then the social services department, they've attended to 600 children. But in the courts, only 10 cases have gone through. So it's our business, the whole circuit. We encourage each other we encourage each other to make sure that each one within their mandate, they carry out or they give the relevant service. And also to strengthen that, it is very, very important issues of resources again. When I talk of resources, transportation of survivors where they need to be transported. I know within our systems where a survivor is not able to afford funds for transportation, we've got the Ministry of Labour and Social Welfare where they can be given transport funds for transport, not of course in monetary. It's very, very rare these days, but I believe they are looking into it. So, and also for the police, for them to have the cars to be there, so that when a survivor comes in, they will not wait until there are 4, 5, 6 survivors, then they transport them. It is also very critical. And within our health system, it is also very critical that medication is always available, and I'm very happy and to say that the minimum package is ever available in the health system.
Commissioner, thank you so much for taking time to speak to us about a very important issue. Of course, the conversation does not stop here for today. These are continuous conversations we have to keep having, creating awareness as we fight this very unfortunate situation that still seems to be happening within our communities. As we close off our show, what would your last words be to our listeners, to community members, members, to the government, to the various players, to the various stakeholders that are involved in fighting the scourge?
Thank you very much. My last words is to the populace of Zimbabwe, that it is very, very important to seek for medical services within 72 hours when someone has been raped. We don't want to get to a level where we are saying somebody has been raped, let's seek for health services. It is a clarion call that Zimbabwe, let's do our best to ensure that we prevent the incidences of rape. And it is also very, very important that we continue to raise awareness as a team, a multi-sectoral response. We continue to raise awareness on the importance of reporting either to the police, reporting to the health services, that we get the necessary interventions at the right time.
I have been in conversation with Commissioner Anne Musiwa. She is the Deputy Director for Childcare within the Ministry of Health and Childcare. And she's also a Rapporteur of the African Union within the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. This has been a very important conversation on the gender agenda. And as we close off our show today, I would like to appeal to each and every one of you that are tuned in today. If you or someone you know has survived sexual violence, please remember you're not alone. There is help that is available, and seeking medical care within 72 hours can make all the difference. The conversation does not end here. Continue engaging with us at ZiFM Stereo on our various platforms online, and don't go anywhere. Enjoy the rest of your programming on ZiFM Stereo, my station, your station. I've been your host, signing out, Khaya Moyo.